Take the free gas and fill it all the way up. That's an order from your HOA president. Can you believe that's how this whole circus started? Picture this. I'm at the Shell station, just finished a 16-hour shift. Bone-tired diesel fumes stinging my eyes. And here comes this bleach-blonde BMW driving suburban dictator, waving her black card in my face like I'm supposed to grovel for her charity. Her fake lashes practically fluttered right off as she told me dead serious to accept her generosity. Right then, I thought if karma's got a sense of humor, this is going to be good. I just look at her calm, polite, probably dead in the eyes after the week I've had, and I swipe my own card. Ma'am, I pay my own way. That's all I say. And she snaps. She goes from smug to nuclear in 3 seconds flat. I mean, shrieking fake, crying, clutching her phone, calling 911 like I just mugged her. Next thing I know, sirens are screaming, 3 cruisers whip into the parking lot, and my radio's crackling with all units domestic disturbance at Shell Station. And the kicker. She just called the police on her own police chief. I'll never forget the look on her face when she realized. It was like watching someone get hit with the world's coldest bucket of water. But hey, let's rewind a bit. Let me tell you how the most powerful woman in my neighborhood ended up calling in the cavalry on the one guy who could take down her whole empire. Name's Edward Thornfield, 48 Police Chief of Willowbrook Falls, Ohio. Not that anyone in Riverside Meadows HO. A knew it. After my divorce went nuclear, I ended up inheriting my grandma's old house in this sleepy little 22-home community. All I wanted was to disappear, maybe find some peace, just be a normal guy. October leaves crunching under my boots, wood smoke in the air, and for a minute I thought maybe I'd actually found it. And then Cordelia Brightwater entered stage left. Suburban Hitler in designer yoga pants. 52 hair so blonde you need sunglasses just to look at her. Married to a city councilman. HOA president for 8 years straight because, let's be honest, nobody had the guts to run against her. She lived in the biggest house, drove a BMW, worth more than most folks' yearly paycheck, and ran the HOA like it was her own little kingdom. Day 5 of living in peace. I wake up to a $500 citation slapped under my windshield wiper. My crime, unauthorized commercial vehicle. My pickup, by the way, weighs 6,800 pounds, and the covenant allows anything under 8,000. But Cordelia. She decided my little emergency radio made the truck look commercial. She scheduled my appeal for Tuesday at 2 p.m. because obviously normal people don't have jobs, right? That's when Elder Henderson, old Vietnam vet next door, leaned over the fence and said, "Son, you got military bearing. She can smell authority. She's going to make your life hell until you break or move." Turns out Henderson was a prophet. Cordelia had a system anyone with a hint of law enforcement, military, any authority, she'd find ways to drive them out. She couldn't stand anyone who might know their rights. Down the street, the Kowalski family, a couple kids. Nothing fancy, bled dry by fines. Bikes on the porch. That's $100. Halloween decorations out 3 days too long, another 200. Grass too tall by a quarter inch, you get the idea. The click of her heels on the sidewalk at night became the neighborhood's new soundtrack. Here's the part that makes me laugh now, while she was hunting for new blue-collar victims. Every one of her police reports was coming across my desk at the station. 47 calls in 18 months, suspicious activity, noise, complaints, aggressive residents. I'd been reviewing her abuse of my own department for years, but I couldn't tip my hand yet. Because what I was seeing wasn't just HOA overreach, it was straight up corruption. City officials using government for payback. My own officers being manipulated. A whole network that forgot they worked for us, not the other way around. So I kept my head down, played the divorced guy, kept to myself, paid my bills, and quietly documented every single abuse of power. Every misuse of city resources. Every time they weaponized government against the people they were supposed to serve. Second week, another ticket, $200 for missing the mandatory hearing. The one scheduled when I was literally running the police department. Then $150 for unkempt landscaping. My grass measured at 2.8 inches. Henderson caught me fuming one night. She's got no idea who she's messing with, does she? He laughed. Cordelia thought she'd found another pushover, someone she could bully until he moved. But what she'd actually done was pick a fight with the one guy with both the authority and the motivation to blow her little empire wide open. Her first real power play came fast, a 6 a.m. Saturday wellness check. I'd just pulled a double barely asleep when someone pounded on the door like they were trying to break it down. There she was, clipboard measuring tape, fake smiling so hard her face nearly cracked. Trailing behind her, some city inspector who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Concerned neighbors reported suspicious activity, she announced. The suspicious activity? Me coming home at midnight after emergency calls, parking in my own driveway. That's Cordelia math for domestic terrorism, I guess. She circled my property, took pictures, measured things, handed me fines for exterior lighting disturbance, and, again, for grass that was half an inch too long. That city inspector, though, something about him didn't fit. City code enforcement doesn't do Saturday morning house calls for HOA complaints. I'd signed enough overtime forms to know that. Turns out Cordelia had been coordinating with city officials, using tax money to build her own little enforcement army. She'd turned code enforcement into her personal goon squad. I started digging cross-referencing every HOA-related call in our dispatch system. What I found, whenever Cordelia called, inspectors jumped same day. Everyone else waited weeks. She'd even made up concerned neighbors out of thin air. Most HOA violations are just theater intimidation, plain and simple. Cordelia was counting on me, not knowing better. She'd picked the wrong guy. I filed a formal ethics complaint, outlined her misuse of resources. 24 hours later, Cordelia got a call from the city attorney's office. Her emergency HOA meeting was damage control. 15 residents, stale coffee, and a whole lot of fear in the air. We have a hostile resident refusing to comply with basic standards, she said, staring daggers at me. Henderson piped up frivolous complaints about what exactly, Cordelia? The vote to require background checks for all residents failed barely. But the lines were drawn. Next morning, I get a letter from her husband's law firm. Legal threats demanding I stop harassing elected officials. Every threat was more evidence for my case. They didn't realize they were picking a fight with someone who'd been building a file on them for months. But here's where it really got twisted. I'm at my desk one Tuesday sipping my coffee when I read a formal complaint requesting a criminal background investigation on Wellme. Cordelia wanted me investigated for surveillance, criminal intent, and law enforcement equipment. Thing is, she wasn't wrong about the equipment part. Just had no idea why I had it. Best part. The complaint landed on my desk because I'm the police chief. Cordelia was demanding I investigate myself. I almost laughed out loud. But when I started pulling more records, the pattern was worse than I'd thought. 73 complaints from her in 3 years. 89% unfounded. But when she called, my department responded in half the time. My own officers had become her private security. And then came the twist. Dale Murphy, private investigator, shows up at my door, nervous, clutching a folder. Cordelia had paid him nearly $2,500 to dig up dirt on me. His report: subject appears to be high-level law enforcement. Highly dangerous if provoked. Recommend no further confrontation. I almost choked reading it. Cordelia thought she was dealing with a criminal mastermind. Murphy said her husband had been pressuring the police department for years, threatening budgets if the HOA didn't get special treatment. My predecessor had caved, so Cordelia had gotten used to the cops being her muscle. That night, Cordelia ambushed me at my mailbox, PI report in hand. I know exactly what you are, she hissed. Dirty ex-cop. Probably federal. You're here to rob us or worse. I kept my cool. Ma'am, I just want to live quietly and follow the rules. She laughed shrill ugly like a hyena that got into law school. You questioned our authority. That's not compliance. That's reconnaissance. The next morning, her husband Raymond showed up. Councilman smile, expensive suit, fake concern. My wife has concerns. Maybe we can reach an understanding that benefits everyone. Translation: join the corruption or face consequences. I told him I just wanted to be a good neighbor. He leaned in. All predator now. People who fight the system find the system fights back. That night, listening to the audio I'd recorded, it hit me. This wasn't just HOA drama. This was organized, systematic abuse. But they'd made one fatal mistake. They targeted the one person who had both the authority and the resolve to bring them down. And then one morning, I walk out to my truck and find all four tires slashed, cop lover spray painted in red across the hood back window smashed. Security footage grainy, but the walk, the rage pretty unmistakable. By 9 a.m., Cordelia was at the station, accusing me of vandalizing my own truck for sympathy. That's when it all came full circle. She tried to gift me free gas at the Shell, and, when I refused, she called the police on the police chief. I let my own officers arrest me, didn't even pull rank. 6 hours in my own holding cell just to prove a point that our system is dangerously easy to hijack by anyone willing to lie and scream loud enough. Cordelia thought she'd finally beaten me. In reality, she'd handed me exactly what I needed. Because when I got out and started digging through evidence, I found the motherlode emails. Financial records proof that Raymond and Cordelia had been coordinating with a local judge, funneling public contracts to themselves, destroying anyone who tried to stop them. 7 families before me, all with law enforcement backgrounds, bankrupted, driven out, framed for crimes they never committed. That was it. I took everything to the feds. The Department of Justice, the FBI, every agency that cared about public corruption. They hit the case like a tornado. Wiretaps, forensic audits, you name it. And while Cordelia was busy crowing about her victory, the feds were documenting every word, every crime, every attempt to frame me for things I'd never done. In the end, it wasn't some movie showdown. It was a federal takedown so thorough it made national news. Cordelia Raymond, the judge, the inspector, they all went down. Embezzlement, conspiracy, witness tampering, domestic terrorism. You should have seen her face when the FBI walked into the community meeting in tactical gear. I laid out the evidence, then watched as the handcuffs clicked shut on the whole rotten network. That moment. That's justice. Standing in front of my neighbors, hearing them cheer. Not for vengeance, but for relief. For the first time in years, people could breathe. 2 years later, the restitution money rebuilt the community center. The playground stands where Cordelia used to measure grass with a ruler. The Henderson Garden feeds the elderly and the kids. Maria, the journalist who helped expose the network, runs a scholarship for young writers. Henderson and I play chess every Thursday. And the Kowalski kids. They stop by to talk about what it means to stand up to bullies with badges. I still get letters from folks who say our case gave them hope, or at least made them laugh. Because the lesson? It's not that the bad guys win, it's that when you know the system better than the people trying to corrupt it, justice isn't just possible, it's inevitable. I didn't win by shouting. I won by staying calm, documenting everything, letting them dig their own grave. So let me ask you, is there a Cordelia in your neighborhood? Somebody who thinks a little power makes them untouchable. Drop your story. Get specific, the crazier the better. And remember, good people don't have to suffer in silence. Justice isn't dead. It's just waiting for someone stubborn enough to serve it. Don't give the petty tyrants the satisfaction. The next story of justice. Maybe it starts with you.